You're listening to the Real Estate Radio Hour, the show that brings you unfiltered stories and insight from the Twin Cities real estate world with your hosts, Chris Rooney, broker at RE/MAX Preferred, and Andy Presky, leader of the Preferred Home Team at RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
Woo, good morning.
What up? I'm sorry. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Andy.
We replaced Chris. We replaced him with someone more important, I think.
I was going to say, Chris got a hell of a remodel job.
Thanks, Andy.
You're welcome. Yeah. Gosh, it's been a minute. I don't know. Those of you that have been with us along the long journey, you guys are well, Jeff is well known in our world and has been with the Real Estate Radio Hour. My gosh, for Jeff, what has it been, 10 years?
Oh, yeah. Good. At least 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And man, the conversations over the years, you and I and Chris have really, I feel like there's been like a history book written the amount of time that we've known each other with what's happening in our industries. And, you know, it's just been crazy.
I think so too. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's do this. Maybe for those of the people that are tuning in that maybe aren't as familiar with you as I and Nick and Chris are, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit here, give us your company and then a little bit of what you do and maybe what you want to talk about today, what you think, you know, is important to talk about.
Sure. Well, Jeff Zweifel, I've been an attorney in the Twin City area for over 35 years. I've also worked in the title industry for over 20 years. So I've kind of had a background in the industry and seen what's happened over the, from the 2000s all the way to now, early 2000s, and was on with you guys starting in 2010 or 11 in the real recession period, and I've really focused a lot on distressed properties and short sales over the years in my law practice, and seeing some things with that I could talk about, some kind of significant things I've seen there. Seen some other things too that kind of in the distressed property world too. So it kind of depends on what you'd like to talk about, Andy. But
let's do this because I think that kind of keeping. And by the way, thank you for all the years of loyalty and great information. And I tell you guys, one thing that is kind of cool is that if you're watching this, you have a question. I love that Jeff is so good on the fly. He can answer the questions as they come in a lot of times. So if anybody has a question, feel free to message the show on Facebook or whatever, and then we'll get those on air here. But or even after the show's over, if you see this and the show's already been aired and you want to send us a message, we'll make sure Jeff gets it, and then we get back to you with an answer. The marketplace right now. So over the last 18 months, a lot of real estate agents have really, and loan officers for that matter, have considered this market to be very challenging. And it's a lot of it has to do with the fact that, we get in with interest rates, where they've been great for so many years. And then you have a great, run of, hate to say the great positivity of the COVID era, but there was a lot of housing challenges faced and accomplished with, or fixed with what was going on. A lot of people realize, hey, I got to work from home, or the kids have to work from home, or we just can't go anywhere. We need different living considerations. Rates were good. So it fueled the economy that way. But right now we're definitely seeing a shortage of houses. We're seeing higher interest rates, what I would call a more normal or a very kind of normal challenging market. It's just different because it's kind of like jumping out of the hot tub and jumping into the pool. And even though the pool's 85 degrees, it still feels cold, and it one of those kind of reactions. Or like Chris and I have always used the analogy of, you're driving through North Dakota going 85 miles an hour and you hit the Minnesota border and have to slow down to 70. And it feels like you're walking. And I think that's kind of the direction we've been heading the last 18 months. But that being said, they do that to me here.
That's good. That's good,
Jeff. No, so long story short, the average American family last year, this was published by NAR, National Association of Realtors, had $322,000 of equity in the average home of equity. And you and I both know equity equals options. Inflation's been killing a lot of families and they haven't changed their lifestyle. So we're seeing a lot of consumer debt piling on top of a lot of families. Groceries are higher going. I mean, a cheeseburger is $18. I mean, no matter where you go nowadays, it seems like. And it's like you work hard, you're stressed. And so you feel like, oh, I don't want to make any changes until you absolutely have to. So what I thought was maybe you and I would talk a little bit about that. Like, so if you're a family that's been going down that path and you're like, okay, wait, we're kind of running out of runway here to take off and fix this problem. What Jeff can help us with is maybe navigate us through. What do you do? I mean, what can a family that's in debt and has that, what do we do, Jeff? How do we help them?
Well, I think that it's to get the word out that there are things that you can do. Because what I'm seeing right on what you're talking about, Andy, is I'm seeing people that they did a forbearance during the COVID period. And then when the forbearance was up, they didn't realize that a lot of them had to make a lump sum payment to pay back the months of mortgage that were forbeared. And they were forced into, trying to get a loan modification and so forth. So they went down, they're kind of spiraling down a course where if they don't qualify for a loan modification, where they're going to find themselves in foreclosure. And I'm seeing that a lot, and it seems growing. And also to your point about all the other costs have gone up for cheeseburger, for gas, for groceries, and some people just they didn't have the resources to absorb these extra costs. And I'm seeing those people too. They're just not able to afford their homes. And some of these people just bought their homes in the last couple of years. So they are upside down. They can't turn around and sell, immediately after, with closing costs and so forth. And so I've seen a significant uptick in people with distressed properties, or they have a property and they're distressed, but they don't know what to do. They may not have been even a homeowner back in the days when you and I were working on so many short sales in the 2009 to 13, 14 era.
Well, so, Jeff, just for sheer entertainment purposes, those new buyers and new people that are new to the industry or new to the real estate market, let's talk just for a couple seconds about when you say the term short sale, for an example. That was one of the, I did hundreds of short sales with you back in the day for clients. Can you explain to us what a short sale is and maybe the positive side of it and then the ramifications of it?
Sure. What it is when you typically, when you sell a property, you have to get enough money out of the sale proceeds to pay your closing costs and commission and transfer fees, and then still have enough money left over to pay your mortgage off. Okay. Otherwise, you'd have to bring in, write a check or, at closing. With a short sale, the lender allows you to deduct all those closing costs, and then they accept the difference, what's left over, even if you're short $10,000 on your mortgage, $20,000, $30,000, whatever it is. They allow you to do that, and they agree to let you sell it and release the mortgage so that you can move on and avoid foreclosure. And that is a great help to a lot of people.
I think, Jeff, too, just kind of to jump in, back in the days, the economy and the world was accounted differently. The way banks would take debt back in-house was completely different. And these banks, so they didn't become insolvent, had to really put pressure on the government to allow them to hold some of these negative loans or bad loans, as I said, on their books, and allow them, the consumer, then also to, not go into foreclosure. To avoid foreclosure, they would do these short sales, right? And then the big thing, though, that was really, I think you and I were most excited about, is when they started changing the law so that the consumer on a federal level was not taxed for the amount that they were short. And on a state level, then eventually Minnesota followed along. I think they have a little bit of a lag time. And eventually the state would forgive that amount because let's say, for an example, somebody they'd have a short sale and they're upside down $400,000 because there was some of these doozies that you and I would do that were big. And it was a lot that these banks were writing off. And in the old days, they used to be taxed for that short. So, you were given money in sense by being gifted or have it given away. And so they would tax you on it. So you'd get out of trouble, but you'd automatically go into tax trouble. So maybe talk just a little bit about that and how,
Sure.
Hey, Jeff, just move to your right a little bit so I can put you guys both on full screen.
How's that? Yeah. Good. That's better.
They're picky here, Jeff. I tell you.
I know. I know. My makeshift little production
on time and yeah.
I know it. Nick's a hard driver here on us,
I don't know where he gets that.
Well, and from what you were talking about, Andy, about the tax consequences, that in any sort of loan, if a car loan, home loan, if a lender cancels debt, that's supposed to be taxable income to the borrower. But as far as federal law, there has been what's called the Mortgage Debt Forgiveness Act of 2007, and that's been extended through 2025, so that if it's your primary residence and you have a short sale or a foreclosure, you get a 1099. You don't have to pay income tax on that. Now, the state of Minnesota has, like you said, Andy, at times followed or what they call conformed to that tax treatment, and there was no state income tax. Through 2022, state of Minnesota was conforming, but now I haven't been able to verify for sure that they're going to do conformity for 2023 or 2024. It seems like their decision comes out late in the year or beginning of the next year before before tax filing starts. So we should know any. Yeah.
I was going to say what's really interesting though is that as your house grows and just like a portfolio of mutual funds, it grows in value. Eventually, you're going to have to pay tax on that. So think of this for an example. So your house, let's say you bought it for $600,000. Now it's up to $900,000 in value, and you have to do a debt consolidation. You pull out, let's say $150,000 to pay off all your other debts, and that's one version of what happens. In 2005, 4, 6, whatever you pick the year, you and I both had people that we knew that would have their house appreciate $400,000, and they'd pull out all $400,000 because that back then you could go 100% debt. They didn't care because everything kept going up in value, and you pull that $400,000 out, and they go buy a nice big Sea Ray, put it down at the old St. Croix, and have their big yacht paid for in cash, and then the house would get foreclosed on. So this is why they tax, because there is a gain in some cases, right? I mean, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. There is, because if the debt was not used for purchase or improvement of your residence, just like you're saying, Andy, then there's a tax consequence to it when the debt is canceled. So if you don't pay back that debt, there is a tax consequence. There is income. And
I think absolutely. A lot of people got away with it, to be honest with you. I don't think there was a lot of, but they could, right? I mean, there's the potential, but there was a lot of people I saw them literally get away with murder. I mean, there was so much fraudulent activity back then. It was the wild, wild west for a little while. I mean, it was literally, I mean, yesterday we had an opportunity, a speaking engagement we did where we had a panel of agents, and they asked me, they said, "Hey, Andy, what's the craziest situation you've ever been in real estate with an offer that came in?" And I said, well, as a listing agent, I said, and first of all, this is at the time was legal. There was no CFPB. There was no, anybody watching. I mean, there was rules, but not really. This guy had a $1.2 million house. and wanted to offer, because he was doing very well and then he did really bad. So he had this car that was paid for, he wanted to get rid of anyway. But if he sold the house for 1.2 million, he was going to clear over 600,000 out of that house, which would fix all of his problems. He could move on with life. So at 1.2 million, we were having trouble getting people looking at the house. So he started having where we'd run ads saying, you know, buy this house and the Suburban stays. And we would offer like the free Suburban. And I mean, it was ridiculous. Or he goes, I want you to offer $100,000 basement remodeling project that we'll pay for at closing for somebody to have the basement remodeled. I mean, it was absolutely crazy. And
Yes.
the amount of fraud that was going on. And this was like, even normal people were trying to like, well, they did this. So if they did this bad, we'll only do this bad. And it's like, it was crazy. So I'm so glad we're back into a world of where there's rules and people pay attention. And, you know,
I agree there, because people would say, well, you know, other people are doing it. Well, how about all the people? There were many people that took out several primary residence first mortgages, you know, as they were going to be their primary residence when they really weren't. And that was another big fraud.
I was part of one of those where I had a property on one of the beautiful executive homes in North Brooklyn Park, and brand new house, never lived in, had it listed, sold it. And on that same day, she goes, oh, I got to get moving. She goes, I've got 4 more closings today. And I said, 4? She goes, well, I did 3 this morning. This woman was closing on 7 houses in one day, all at the same price point with different mortgage companies. They all thought they were just one mortgage. And this kind of crap was happening around the Twin Cities. And they'd fill them with renters. No verification of employment. I mean, it was ridiculous. And it was, I mean, you and I could probably have a whole show talking about the crazy that we saw.
Yeah, and we're not really seeing anything like that these days. I mean, the market is way different than it was then. I don't know. I mean, we're talking about some more short sales, and that could help some people, but I don't see it being a huge downturn like it was back then. How about you? I mean, I just don't see people being, hence the name short, right? Your first mortgage is 150,000. Your second mortgage is 80, and we only can sell it for 200, right? And so also we're short that 30 some thousand or whatever. We're not seeing that right now. We're seeing where that same family with those debts have a house that's worth 500,000. They can sell it, usually pay everybody off. But I'm seeing more of a consolidation where people rammed up their credit cards. They're maxed out on all their credit cards. We're seeing or they have I always hate to pick on them because I love the product, but like they're hauling around the $45,000 ice house behind their $8,000 Denali truck. And right there's, $3,000 a month in payments for trucks and ice houses and whatever. And so God bless America for having that ability to do things like that. But some people essentially have financially hung themselves, and now they need to figure out a way to figure it out, because we had a sweet spot, I think, and I'm sure you agree with this because you probably were playing a lot more golf. The last couple of years when rates were low, people could refinance everything. There was a sweet spot in life where costs were low, interest rates were low, income started going high, and it was great. I mean, people were truly feeling like they were getting ahead, and now that's reversed. They still have that feeling in their head, but now they're starting to see where that's starting to sink away. And now you're not getting ahead, and you're kind of falling behind, and it's like, okay, where do you stop? And most people can't change their lifestyles, Right. So I'm sure that's what they'll do. Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah, I do. And so that's where we're seeing some more distressed properties than I've seen in the past.
Right.
Because I think like in 2022, Andy, I saw over half the people that consulted with me on a short sale, they were able to sell for over asking and not do a short sale.
Right.
So, and today I'm not seeing that as much. I'm seeing where if I'm referred a short sale, it's going to be a short sale.
Right.
There's not that leeway in the market that there was, I don't think. So.
Right.
Hey, those stories from Andy got me curious. I don't know if you can speak on it, Jeff. I obviously don't use names, but what's the craziest story you had relating to this during the whole shabacle that happened in 2008, 2009?
Boy, I guess I did see a lot of, pretty much innocent people get caught up in it, because the things always things always happen, and then about 3 or 4 years later, we find out that that was a violation, and maybe we should have, people should have always understood it was like Andy said. But I seen people that lost their jobs because they were, say, a closer, and they had nothing to do with the scheme, but they were involved in a development and closed a lot of loans in it. And then they got caught up in a federal investigation over what was going on, and there's a lot of things like that were out there. Without saying any specific names, like you say, Nick, I like the market better now, no doubt about it.
Well, and I think, Jeff, a family that lives without a lot of savings, which is a very normal, I hate to say it's normal, but it's kind of the norm nowadays. Most people don't have a ton in savings to cover if they ever have a loss of a job or income to make it too far without they have to replace that job. So you're 100% right. I think a lot of people that were out there that had purchased, because rates were fair, they still weren't as low as they were the last couple of years, but they were fair. You go out there and you'd get a loan and you'd borrow, a normal family back then would, let's say they could afford a $400,000 house. They were buying a $700,000 house because everything was going up 12 to 15 to 20% a year. So it was like, let's just buy the bigger house because it'll appreciate. We'll make quick money. We'll sell it. Well, some of those families got stuck where all of a sudden they had that bigger house and they were able to stay there because they're on stated income. They didn't have necessarily verified, because if they verified, they wouldn't be able to get that loan, but they're in a bigger house. Yes. Then they lost their job. And then they go, okay, well, we'll just sell the house because we put $400,000 down on that $700,000 house. And then they go to sell it and they realize the house is worth $250,000. I mean, it was unbelievable how some of those monster, like mega beautiful homes, and people that never sold their houses, Jeff, I don't think ever realized how horrible the numbers really got for a while, where if you want to sell, there's a cash guy, but he's going to pay $250,000. You're going to lose all the equity you've worked for your whole lives just because you made a bad, real estate decision at that time. And so, I mean, I agree with you, Jeff. I saw more good people that made kind of ill-advised decisions, maybe from, whoever advised them and said, hey, get in this game. It's like a get-rich-quick scheme. But I saw more families go bad. But one of the things I was going to talk about today too, Jeff, is that you're more than just short sales, right? This is what you and I have done a ton of before, but you're actually a full-fledged real estate attorney, correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Do a lot of real estate work other than short sales. And that's really been a small part of the business the last 6-7 years. So
what are you working on nowadays? Because obviously, there are still short sales out there. There's always people, fighting through the financial devastation of life. But on a positive note, what other things do you find yourself working on nowadays for clients?
I see a lot of deals where there's a family, selling, or a landlord selling to their tenant, or I see the family members, buying a home and then selling it on a contract for deed to their child. I mean, another thing, Andy, is I've been seeing a lot of situations where family members buy a home together and then put together, a business, like a partnership agreement between them for owning the home. Lot of positive things like that, where real estate is, it's a part of helping people structure their ownership of real estate. A lot of that.
So in that arena, I know that there's a ton of if you think back a few years, and we were back when we did our CCO, we had a lot of our crowd it was very diversified on age, but I mean, there was a loyalty to our older crowd. And there was a lot of people asking things like, as an asset, that's probably my largest asset I have the family cabin, and it's valued at, $600,000. I don't have a lot of money to give to my kids, but I want to make sure that they can have that cabin. And talk to us a little bit about maybe some strategies, Jeff, on how to avoid that inevitable, you go to a nursing home and they take your house away because they need the equity, or as an elderly person or somebody heading into your retirement years and you want to gift your children something. Maybe talk about a few options in that arena for us, would you?
Sure. Okay. And one of the things that would be is that you you know, if you want to pass the family cabin on, a trust, putting the cabin in a trust is a very good solution, because typically when the parent is gone, then the kids have to be able to interact with each other and own the property together. Well, the trust, you can set up some rules of the road for them. You know, you could even set up a schedule, well, which, you know, so they can alternate the major holidays like Memorial Day, you know, 4th of July, Labor Day, have a structure for them so that they're not just at odds with each other once the parents are gone. The other part of it, like you said, is the nursing home part. That is a little bit different animal to address. You really have to get the property out of your name and stay out of need for public Medicare assistance for 5 years. It's another option, to try to finance the potential of nursing homes, so that by some sort of life insurance. A lot of life insurance policies have disability riders now, or things like that, which is another option, where then you don't have to say the parents get the property out of their name and lose that control of the property. So
the trust topic's very interesting to me, though. So what are the negatives of that? It seems like everyone should put their homes in trust.
It's good point, Nick. There is, I guess, the negative of a trust is that then you have to manage the trust. If you sell the property, you're selling as a trustee, and there's a few more documents that are involved and so forth. But on the other side, you can add a structure to a trust. You can have a detail of how who's going to be the trustee. So if you have 3 children, well, maybe one's the best one to be the trustee and sort of manage the property. Another thing is, it avoids the property having to go into a probate court proceeding to transfer it. There's a lot of good solutions, but a trust in itself does not avoid the possibility that that there could be a medical assistance lien if the owners go to into care. So,
what is that window like? So, if you put everything into a trust, let's say you're 60 years old and now you're 75, and then you're requiring some assistance, I would assume that trust would be free and clear and behind you. Is that not the case?
No, because they still consider, in a standard, what we call revocable trust, that is standardly used, the state still considers that you own the property. So the trust doesn't start that clock ticking of that 5-year period of time that the property has to be out of your name for it not. So then it's not counted towards your care, being able to pay for your care. You have to actually do what's called an irrevocable trust, which or an outright transfer to your children. Now, for an outright transfer, you could transfer it to the kids into a trust where where you're not the trustee, you're not a beneficiary. That's what an irrevocable trust would be like.
So that's fair, but a lot of people. I was just going to say, a lot of parents have a hard time putting things into a trust and then just saying, "Okay, good luck, kids," and then you live another 30 years. And you might need that money in the future, or whatever, even though you're trying to protect it. Things happen. Right?
Yeah. And that's why, it's not a bad idea if you're healthy and younger that you look at some sort of a long-term care type financing or insurance, because, typically, I guess typical person that goes into nursing home care is only there about, I think it was 24 to 30 months. So if you can finance that another way, you don't have to lose control of your property. That's
okay.
Yeah.
What about now, Jeff? I've also heard, and you and I both have we were on air listening to this, where customers will say, or listeners would say, Well, I just quick claim deeded my property into my kid's name, and I don't think people realize what the pros and the cons of. The pro is that it's over with, it's done, it's in their name. But what are the downfalls of doing a quick claim deed to a child on like a cabin again?
Okay. Well, the biggest ones are that then things that could go wrong in the child's life impact the property. So if the child gets a judgment, a state or federal tax lien, they file bankruptcy, they go through divorce, all those things impact the title to the property. I've even had parents that had to buy the property back from the bankruptcy court, or they had to, or there's a tax lien. So one of the things that we do more nowadays than we used to is, instead of the quitclaim deed, there's what's called a transfer on death deed, where the property stays in the parent's name, but upon the death of the parent, it automatically transfers the property to let's say they had two kids and they named them as the grantees, or the people that received the property on the transfer on death deed. So we see a lot of those, and that avoids if the child in the meantime gets a judgment against them, it doesn't go against the property because they don't own it until the parent actually dies. So
what about the inheritance tax then? I mean, obviously that is, I don't remember how many million you can get away with for no tax, but I mean, in some families we deal with that as a challenge. So how do they avoid inheritance taxes?
Well, one of the first ways to avoid it is that to take advantage, if you're a married couple, you each have a state inherited Minnesota state inheritance tax. So basically sort of would be an exemption. And I believe it's approximately 3 million right now. So if you can structure your estate with a trust and or wills where you get $6 million you can transfer before anything is taxed, but instead of just 3 million. So and what it really involves is that, but if you have a husband and a wife, whoever dies first, you want to incur tax, a part of your estate's tax when the first spouse dies, and not just transfer it all to the second. So if my wife and I have 5 million and I die first, if I have approximately 2.5 million that is in my trust, then that can be taxed when I die. My wife can still have the benefit of using it, but then when she dies, she has only 2.5 million that is taxed, would be taxed, but that whole 5 then not taxed, because I can shelter 3, she can shelter 3. Whereas in most families, what happens is when the first spouse dies, everything goes to the second spouse, and then all of a sudden they have 5 million, and they never, they never took advantage at all of that 3 that the first person could shelter. So they now have 5 and they have to pay tax on 2. So, and this is so there's some really good estate planning things that can be done to avoid that.
So what is your opinion? I know we've been I know Nick probably wants to jump in and get going on the conversation too, but I find your work is fascinating to me. And so when it comes down to things like wills and planning ahead, what do you suggest? Do you suggest somebody come in and actually like meet with you and talk about their situation and then help guide them, or is there a shoe that fits every foot?
You're right. There's not a shoe, and there is not a shoe that fits every foot. And whether it's me or another lawyer in estate planning, what you want to do is really sit down and go over your situation and get your options, so your options. What a trust, wills, estate tax planning, like you're talking about, how to manage the family cabin. Even people with small estates, you want to transfer your home. Well, how about a transfer on death deed? So your home doesn't go through probate when you die. There's all kinds of things that can be done. It's knowledge, knowledge is power. So
cool.
Yeah.
What is, so if I was out there and I've never, thought about it. I'm not that rich, but you do have assets, right? And I tell everybody, even if you have, whatever the amount is, I don't care if it's 100,000 or if it's 1.5 million, why give it away? Why let, that go to being taxed or lost or, so protect yourself, protect your family. I think it's a responsible thing to do. What is an average family when they come in to talk about, and I know that's not your forte, but I know that you and your partner do quite a bit of this, estate planning. What does a family, what should they expect for a cost to set some of these things up? I mean, just rough numbers. Like if I wanted to come in and protect myself and I had under a certain amount, maybe I don't need a trust. And then if I go up to this amount, I maybe need a trust and, death on sale, deeds and things like that. I mean, where does that start, or what can I budget as a listener here?
Yeah. Oh, sure. I know, because people don't know if this is $1,000 or $10,000 to do these things. Right. And what I see, mainly is if your estate is less than $3 million, so you don't have a lot of estate tax planning issues, your range probably is 1,000 to 2,500. Just depending on whether you're setting up trusts or not. But you're kind of in that range, and that's probably fairly common throughout the industry. So,
and I think that for those, so now I've being on the real estate side of things, how many families that have nothing planned, and mom and dad die and there's not a will, or one dies, the other doesn't, and there's no wills, and going through probate and going through settling an estate, there's so many challenges that can be avoided with, let's say, $1,500 to $2,500, right? That could help them and help I don't think so when somebody has a death in the family, it's so traumatic, and you're planning funerals, and and then bill collectors start calling, and then you have to get a pile of death certificates, because now you have to tell everybody that you're officially your parent is deceased, and it becomes a lot. And I don't think people, we don't think about it because we all think we're going to live forever. But in the event that we don't, who knows, maybe with technology we can. But the idea there is that taking the steps to protect you and your family for a reasonable investment up front, I think is probably the best gift you could ever give to your family, and spending the time.
And I agree, Andy. And I think I really like to see the peace of mind that clients have when they've actually addressed it. Because otherwise it's kind of an ogre in the room, the thing you wake up at, 2 a.m. and think that you haven't done anything about. And they just have great peace of mind, that things that, okay, that's something checked off. So,
yeah. So what are your, and then I've only taken up the first 40 minutes of the show. It's a Jeff interview here.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, these are topics that I think that a lot of people, as we go through this, will maybe fast forward one topic, but listen to the next. What are the number one real estate concerns out there right now for your clients? Is it contracts? Is it property line disputes? Is it, deed issues? What are the big challenges you're seeing right now, Jeff?
Hey, Jeff, think on it quick. I'm going to play a little commercial while you think on your answer.
Okay. Thanks.
You bet.
Have you ever heard of the term silver tsunami? It's the idea that baby boomers, as they get older, will all start to downsize at the same time and really impact the housing market. But is it really going to happen? Here's what I can tell you. This graph shows 60% of adults who are 65 and up plan to stay put and live in their house as they get older. That would mean a lot of baby boomers aren't planning on moving and want to age in place. And the ones who will move aren't going to do it all at the same time. So don't worry just because you're hearing about this online. It's not going to be a big wave where everyone in this generation moves at the same time. It'll happen slowly over the years. If you have any questions about what you're hearing on the housing market, I can help. I'm Andy P. Give me a call. I'd love to help you on your housing journey today. We're getting pretty fancy around here, Jeff.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah.
I don't know where they get those graphics, but I kind of like them.
Yeah, sure.
It was on topic too. You guys are talking about dying and old people. So
Nick, that's why Nick's here, man. He's in it. He's on it. So
Yeah.
what are those topics? So what are you seeing right now for real estate law challenges that are out there that you're seeing or common?
You know, two common ones and then an interesting one. Okay, if I have time, but one common one is disclosure issues that where I think you might saw, Andy, there's so many people bought homes, some sight unseen, a lot of them without inspection, and I'm seeing more and more. I've seen a lot of calls for people with disclosure questions where they feel like things weren't disclosed properly, and that's been a big one. I'm seeing a lot of situations where people bought real estate together, either like significant others or family members, and they just cannot get along living together, and so there's really no structure to what to do if you can't get along. Two people own real estate together without going to court. So I'm seeing a lot of that. Something really cool that I've seen lately is that if you have highly appreciated real estate, such as like apartment building or maybe you're selling land for development. I've seen some cool things done with charitable trusts where you're able to give you're able to avoid that really big capital gains tax by but still get still realize revenue from these properties by using charitable means, and be able to support a charity that you are concerned about. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
I think it's cool when you can have a legacy, and I think a lot of people think that I didn't make enough money to make an impact on anything or whatever, and I disagree 100%. Just because those big shots give the $25 million checks, but and all of a sudden we're giving $100,000. Who cares? It's still part of what you believe in. It's part of your fabric that made you the person that you were. And I think it's important to incorporate some of that into your estate. But
yes.
Hey, I have a question though too, Jeff. So in my age and a little younger, business credit is a huge thing. And a lot of people are using it to try to buy up Airbnbs, doing some other probably not good things. What do you think about like business? Are you seeing this too, like in real estate, where people are taking a crap ton of credit out and trying to buy Airbnb investment properties?
I have seen it. I am seeing it. And then where I kind of see it, Nick, is then I get questions about, well, how shall I hold this real estate? Shall I put it in an LLC, or shall I, what are the benefits of that versus just owning it in my own name? And then you have, or Nick, if you and your friend go into a business together and you try to jointly buy that, what should you do? Should you put it in how should you hold title? So I see a lot of those questions. The use of limited liability companies to own real estate that people are buying. Yeah.
There's a lot of that right now, Nick, in this marketplace, where you see the consumer saying, hey, do I want to become a licensed real estate agent, or do I want to just be a contractor that buys and flips houses? So there's pros and cons of both. The contractor does not have to follow the code of ethics. So I hate to say it this way, but the little old lady that has a $300,000 house, she says, I'd take 100. And you say, great. And you write them out a check for 100 the day, boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden you, in my opinion, stripped all that equity away from that. That's what I'll be the first one to stand up in front of anybody and say, cash offers they used to call that equity stripping. Nowadays it's called a cash offer. And it's the people that need to sell fast or quick or whatever, for whatever reason, and their equity now is getting given away. And I don't understand why that's not being protected, but beside the point, you know what I mean? It's kind of like as a real estate agent, though, the advantage of doing it as a real estate agent is you're following the code of ethics. But also from a taxable perspective, when you sell that property, if you buy it as a real estate agent, it's considered to be income, regular income versus capital gains, subject to capital gains on top of that. So you actually it's considered to be within our industry. So, and I'm not giving tax advice, I'm saying do your own research, but That's why some, I hate to say it, if you're going to flip a house or if you're going to do a cash offer, doing a cash offer with a licensed real estate agent that follows the ethics. So when they say, hey, is my house worth 100? And you say yes, you're in, there's a fiduciary responsibility that you have right there for that client as they're coming to you as the trusted go-to. And as a licensed agent, I'm going to say, you know what, it's worth 300, but I got to make a little money. Would you take 250? Everything's in writing. It's worth 300. I'll give you 250. I'm going to flip it and make 50 grand. And, I'm fine with that. You're giving me more than I want anyway. Put it all on paper, have them sign everything so everybody understands everything. And it's a cleaner, more ethical way to do it. But I just, all these companies popping up, I think they're thinking there's easy low-hanging fruit to grab. And it worries me.
I 100% agree, Andy. I think things that they kind of looks like it's too good to be true. Probably it is too good to be true that, you need to check into it, have your own agent to, like you said, or, seek advice of an attorney, but, beware, beware in these situations.
Well, let me ask you this, because this is what's funny. I know for a fact, one of two of the biggest companies that are out there that are offering the cash, we'll buy your house, easy, right? And I know that less than 3% of their transactions actually are those kind of sales. The rest of them are traditional real estate where they're listing the houses. So at what point, Jeff, is that considered to be bait and switch? And again, an old phrase, but we offer you, hey, look at this shiny object, but really we're going to give you this. And it's just a technique to get you in the door versus an actual business practice that they're adhering to.
I think that's a good question.
Number?
Yeah, I don't know exactly where that line is, but I think if I was the consumer and I realized I was involved in a bait and switch, I'd go get two other, at least, or one other, get advice from one other agent that didn't try to bait and switch me.
I think that's a good advice, Jeff, because I don't think I think, we're in an era where we, like I heard a guy speak out in Vegas and he said, look at how consumers right now are like, oh, I got this great app and it's just easy. And you press a button and a car comes and gets you and it takes you down the strip to the next place you want to go to for $20. And it's so great. I go, but there's zero background check. There's zero credibility check. There's zero, do they even have a driver's license? Are they the person that they say they are? You get into a cab and at least they have to have their photo ID there so they can look at their face and say, okay, that is the guy that's driving or gal driving this cab. And you get into these other, Ubers and the whatevers that are out there, and consumers have become convenience driven versus, best practices driven. And I think that's starting to kind of wander over, just like you can go online and create your own will, right? It just click the button and for $200 you got a will. Tell us a little bit about that, because I've got a 2-hour show I could talk about with this, but let's stay focused on real estate law. So with that convenience factor with real estate law, are you seeing that affect your industry, or do you think people are getting, not necessarily the proper coverage that they think they're buying, or where are we at with that stuff, Jeff?
Well, I think a lot of that is bait and switch too, Andy, because I think there's a very, very small box or a group of people that would fit into just, being able to do a will that you can click the box. But what it probably is more a way that they say, oh, you need this, and then they refer you to a lawyer,
Yeah.
I'm not saying I know all that to be, but
that's like the biggest, the biggest scam in our industry right now, Jeff. And I say this cautiously because they got more money than me and they could sue me. But let's say it rhymes with willow. And when you click that button and you request a showing, I don't think the consumer knows that agent just paid $300 to $500 for that click to get that opportunity to take you to that house and sell you that house, because they know that you're going to click another button again. And not beyond that, they don't understand that agent for one showing, all of a sudden there's 2.7% being paid out. This is where all these national lawsuits, I think, are stemmed from, is that, they're not explaining that to people. It's not crystal clear. People think they're dealing with the listing agent directly, and they're not. Their name is being sold on a big wheel, and they spin the wheel and go, okay, Billy Bob, you're up. Sally, you're up. And then they take these leads that come in, they pay a ton of money for them. And then now Zillow's getting around that too, where they're making these companies kick back 35% of the commission, Jeff. So some of these big, I call them Zillow teams, these big Zillow teams that are out there, nothing wrong with them. Right now, it's a great way for the Zillow teams to make money. But the consumer, when you click that, I don't know if you know that Zillow's making 35% of that commission because it's not disclosed. Why should it not be disclosed up front, right on the button? Like, oh, by the way, you need to agree to our terms of service, and we are going to be receiving a commission off of anything that you buy that when you click this button under representation. I don't know. I just get so upset.
Yeah, and I think that's fair to be upset. And if you think about it just from a consumer standpoint, they would pay the same price to come to an agent that's not paying 35% of their commission. And I don't know, kind of human nature.
If I was one of those, let's say you clicked the button and I showed up to your house, and now I'm going to sell your house, and we're going to put it up for sale, and I have to give 35% of whatever I charge you back to a company. Do you think you're going to get a good or a fair price on your listing percentage, or do you think I'm going to have to charge you full retail?
I think full retail, and I think human nature is, and it may be that they might work on the properties that they're not paying 35% harder than the ones that they are. I don't know. I'm maybe guessing, but
I think the lead generation in our business, and just like any other business, to generate clients right now. And I think a lot of clients are being fooled by we're only going to go with technology-based real estate companies. I get it. God bless you. I hope someday they do have a version for those customers seeking the no touch. But then I also want to start buying cars with no touch. I want to start buying my health insurance with no touch. I want to buy my auto insurance with no touch. I want to buy my boat, my car. I don't want to talk to a salesperson in any of those arenas then, because those are all major arenas that can also force us to bankruptcy or force us to, all I'm saying is that the guidance of a professional is appreciated by some and overlooked by others, but at least make it fair where everybody is aware of what they're doing. Right, Nick?
Yeah, I guess I definitely agree.
Nick, you should be drinking coffee to stay awake during this show, man.
No, it's good. There's a lot of interesting points.
We put him to sleep, didn't we, Jeff?
We did. Yeah.
This is all stuff I'm interested in because I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of my tax burden. And a good way to do that is stay out of the country for 330 days of the year, foreign earned income exclusion. So I want to learn more about overseas property and those kind of rules, but I don't think that's Jeff's expertise, is it?
No, not
you
really.
Know anything? Just
but Jeff does understand title. I mean, you understand title and you want fee simple, because there's a lot of countries, Nick, where you go in there and you're like, oh, I bought a place, and you're down in Mexico, and everybody forgets it back in, what was it, 1987? They just took your properties away from you and said, nope, we're going to own them now, and you don't own them anymore. As a foreign owner, there's no foreign owners of real estate anymore. And everything you had is gone. And everybody's like, how quickly do you forget those ridiculous situations you're in? Now, you go to Belize and some of these other countries where they actually have what they call the fee simple titles, where you're on the title, you're the owner, there's no games. I would just buyer beware. And like I hear people saying, oh, I just bought a place in Mexico. And I go, you got a 100-year lease probably, which is probably outlive you, but.
No, 100%. The one thing I did see though, and Chris can attest to it, was probably $250,000 home, big spot, 5-minute walk to the beach, beautiful, had its pool, everything. And the property tax annually was $600 a year. That's crazy, huh?
That is crazy.
But hey, Andy, you want to wrap up? Jeff, you want to pitch your stuff? How we get in contact with you? I'll put it on here after and whatnot. And then I just want to get it one segment with Andy about new construction for clips.
You bet. Well, you can get a hold of me at Mark V and Zweifel. It's mzlaw.us is our website, and otherwise it's Jeff at mzlaw.us.
And that too, if anybody if you forget all that, just message the show. We'll make sure Jeff gets your information and we'll put you in touch. Because Jeff, do you now with a customer, how does that work? Do they walk in and immediately have to bring money and lay it on the table, or do you guys consult for a minute, or how does that work with because a lot of people don't know how to help or receive help from a lawyer?
And it kind of depends on the type of law, but the law that I do, if I usually kind of triage the people to start with to see what's their real estate question or issue. If it's something I can help them with, and I try to give them an idea of the cost, because I know people are concerned about lawyer costs and they don't know what the cost will be. Same with estate planning. We do that on a basis where we sit down and go over what your needs are and then suggest things and the costs for them. So,
well, your office is conveniently located up in Maple Grove too. So if anybody in the Twin Cities is here, easy to get to, you can go up there and hit Portillo's, get a nice Italian beef sandwich for lunch, and go see Jeff with your garlicky breath.
Yeah, no problem. I love Portillo's.
Hey, Jeff, it was awesome to have you on. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks. I did too. I loved it. Yeah, thanks.
All right, guys, we're going to go into new construction segment. So first, it's going to be brought to you by Chris Rudy Home Experts.
I was just 1 year old when my family started in real estate, where both my parents were agents. They also dabbled in investing in real estate, rentals, flips, and construction. After college, I went right into getting my license in July of 1990. As a 23-year-old agent in an industry that looks nothing like today, I had to know more for my clients to choose me. There wasn't Zillow or social media to tell them how good I was. I had to win them over with knowledge. With knowledge comes confidence, and with confidence comes results.
I hope he's relaxing right now, by the way. Goes up in the sand somewhere.
Hey, I'll tell you what, though, the content you guys got was really good, and you could tell it was different with you guys in person, So I think so too. Like last week's episode.
I did. The sound was off just a little bit. I don't know if you noticed that. We got to figure that out, that glitch.
Oh,
I was talking and it was going like this.
Just a little with the mouth, not you gotta clap beforehand, but we'll get that figured out. But anyways, here we go. Andy, I want to go over new construction. You're quite an expert in this. I found this property. I think it's near your area. Let's just go over like we do with the luxury listings, and let's talk.
All right. So I got one for $450. Looks like up in Hanover. Okay. 2,900 square feet. Is that all on one floor? That's a big Rambler. Or that must be with the basement finish as well. Let's take a look there. Let's keep rolling around. 4-bedroom, 3-bath, Hanover. Right next to probably Big Boar out there, which is a great restaurant. I don't know if you've hit it, Nick. I suppose it's been a minute since you've been back, but look at that cool little tuck under deck. That'd be awesome for grilling and rainy days and walkout.
Really? Well, it's kind of small to do all that. Do you think you can do that there?
Yeah, I think this house isn't really for the big family. This is the ma and pa house, where you got a grill and a couple little chairs, and you go out there and have a glass of wine, watch the sunset. Nice kitchen, big island, Actually, not a ton of cabinet space here, but I think that, with the backside of that island being a cabinet door on there, that helps a lot, because I think we forget that part of the kitchen is that's where you hide all your crock pots and your holiday stuff. So when we downsize, a lot of people forget, well, what am I going to do with all my stuff that I had, in my big cabinets, right? So that's nice. I like drawers on the bottom. That's nice. White is kind of the thing now, isn't it? It seems to be, I've always fought it because I thought, it's going to be dated or whatever, but a lot of people enjoy the all white woodwork. It allows builders to actually give you a savings as well, because a lot of times with white woodwork, it's not real wood. It's actually the manufactured density fiberboard, the MDF or whatever it is. And a lot of times it can be painted and looks beautiful. And it's not even wood. So you save thousands of dollars, helps keep the price points down. On the cabinets, they can also do that where they're a painted cabinet. And then they're not necessarily a real wood cabinet. So if you see you're walking through a model house and it doesn't show, a lot of grain on the cabinet, you're just seeing a really fat, flat, smooth, perfect door. They're not perfect because the wood was perfect. They're perfect because they're probably also an MDF product, which is nothing wrong with it. It's just different. Nice bathroom, nice fireplace. That's almost a must nowadays. You see the square vault on that room. I don't know if you can kind of scroll up into the ceiling a little bit. There you go. So that's a fun way to accent ceilings now. And what's kind of cool too is you see, Nick, where they have the wall is gray. That allows you to put some color up on your ceiling. So it really adds a dimension of texture or having that height versus sometimes with the pan vaults, you kind of lose that because of the angles and it's optical illusion. It looks, taller, but it's not quite as dramatic as the box. There you go. Nice little bedroom, nice little side windows, which are cute in a model, but are a pain to keep covered, especially if the sun comes up on that side of the house. So I always tell people, if you're morning people, that's great. If you're not, you might not want to have those windows. Basement walkout, all finished. That's where we're getting the 2,900 square feet. So that house is probably 1,400 square feet-ish a floor, and nice walkout like that. Big windows, lots of natural light. Kind of looks like you're overlooking a barn back there. And but yeah, nice little office. Sliding doors, I like that. Cool carpet. Tuck unders, nice and easy. Lots of folding in the laundry room there. Nice house, actually. Nice front door. That's the other thing I think a lot of builders miss on is that front door. I think that it really gets missed, and there's not a lot of I don't know. As you come up to a house and it's a smaller home, smaller doors, I would spend the time to make sure that house really has the curb appeal. And with a smaller front on the home, you can spend more for less, right? You get more for less. And so I love it. So beautiful hardwood floors, love it. Yeah, that's a great house. This is a house somebody could buy and get old in and still be current with all the design and the style. And
it's worth that price, Andy?
Oh yeah, that's a really fair price. Yeah, right now you're seeing a lot of that similar house, a little closer in now. For those of us that aren't familiar with like Hanover's northwestern suburb that's out a little bit. It's kind of on your way out to the Buffaloes and that, and it's the 15 minutes past Maple Grove kind of a thing. And so that's why you're seeing that 490s in the Blaine Maple Grove. You're going to see that with a 6 in front of it.
Andy, it says 135 days on Zillow though.
Well, that's because it's new build. So that's the other thing. New build, sometimes the builders will actually list the houses while they're under construction to draw interest. You'll also see, this is what's crazy, Nick. You're going to see the price go from 490 to 520 back to 550 to 450. And the build, as they're adding things to that house or making decisions like, hey, let's finish the basement or let's add landscaping. Or a perfect example of that is like this time of the year, a lot of homes will not have the landscaping done because they were built in the fall. And those builders want you to close on that house and they don't want to have to leave money in escrow. So what they'll do is they'll just sell that house so they reduce the price, back out the landscaping, and then you do it on your own. So that's why you'll see builders changing and fluctuating prices. But this is where I say bring an experienced agent with you, because when you're looking at these houses and you're like, that last fall, that house was $525 and now it's $490. There's probably a couple reasons. It's probably missing the landscaping, missing the irrigation. Maybe it doesn't have the patio that the other model had or whatever. And so those are the things that you want to do a little bit more of the investigation on to make sure that you're getting what you really think you're getting.
Very good, Andy. Very good. That was a nice segment there. We'll wrap it up.
Digs right now. Where are you right now? We never got to catch up.
Colombia. I'm in Cali still. Been here for a month.
For those of us that know what Cali is, what is Cali?
It's a city in Colombia. It's an infamous city for the Cali cartel and a lot of killings and danger. But it's amazing. And the salsa capital of the world.
Dancing, not eating, right?
Yeah, dancing. Salsa dancing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's I've been watching your videos. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's an exciting.
Got a good vibe, you said, huh?
Very. No, I like it a lot. It's a good city. But now I'm gonna go to the beach in the Caribbean, Santa Marta. So it'll be good. And then I'm going over back to Europe and Munich. But Andy, stay after. I want to talk to you quick. Everyone else, click that link. This was a good little format. I'm glad we did without Chris. We don't need him, right? But click the link. We have our websites on there.
That's your father.
subscribe to YouTube, send us likes, all that kind of stuff. So, Andy, we'll see you and everyone else next week.
All right,
okay?
sounds good.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Real Estate Radio Hour. Don't forget to visit our website, realestateradiohour.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or your preferred podcast listening app. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes or sharing us with a friend. Until next time, stay awesome, Twin Cities.